in bad faith, in jest, I suppose I should say. He's not really a big True fan, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, they have some, not really beef, but RiSky thinks True plays really, quotation marks, dumb. You know, like, he really doesn't understand that True can win games how he plays, right? Obviously, he understands he's a good player, but it's like a bit of a meme, and that kind of fits this year. He was like...
A lot of players feel that way about True, but I feel the opposite way about True. I think True's play is really clever.
But it's very different, right? Why do you think it's clever? Go on, enlighten us. What's different? What
Well,
do you like?
just generally speaking, he plays his own style. He clearly understands things that other players don't. He doesn't have like the best mechanics out of the Korean players by any means, and still he was wildly successful doing the things that he was doing. Like he got a top 4 GSL finish I think before moving to NA. And just overall, I enjoy that, you know, he tries out his own things. He understands the game in his own way, and it works for him. Like, what's stupid about that? It's the opposite, right? Like, I think it's much more clever than someone that's straight up copying, like, say, Dark or whoever, you know, whoever their favorite Zerg player is. That doesn't make him smart.
Yeah, that's true. True is actually, I think...
Bro, I see what you did there.
You see, I never try to do this. It's just, I literally just use these words that players have named themselves after. You know which one I hate? I hate it when people... I hate Nice. Nice is this player who every time I cast him, I'm like, oh, that's a nice trade. And everyone in the chat's like, haha, he used the player name in a comment. I'm like, I say that's a nice something all the time. Like, this is not a weird word for me to use. Like,
yeah.
If I somehow throw Semper into a sentence or something, like, sure, you know, I'll take it, you know, I'll take the joke, but I'm not trying to be funny.
Semper, let's try to do that. How do you do that? What does
well, I know what Semper means in, like, Latin, I think. Semper means, like, always.
We need a similar word to Semper that most people would understand.
Temper?
Yeah, I didn't. Temper. I like it.
He's got a...
Okay.
you're gonna fit that in at some point. Semper,
You're gonna, I'm sure.
I'm going to. but it doesn't really work, right? Because if you say he's got a bit of a Semper going on now, it just doesn't... People don't really link to the temper, do they?
I don't think so, no. It's weird.
It's a shame. We'll have to... We'd have to be really clever and really funny to figure this out.
Yeah, it's gonna be really difficult. Maybe chat can help us out though.
Yeah, maybe chat. I love this. Chat's really good at questions like this. You know, one time someone in chat asked for their first an opening joke for a Tinder date, or not a Tinder date, but like a Tinder match. And so we had a big discussion for about 15 minutes on puns you can make with the name like Emily. And we had this. And we had an amazing one, like something like, "Hey, you're one in a milli on." I tell you, Twitch chat is like is the way forwards. So
yeah,
I'm sure they'll have something better than Temper for us.
Perhaps.
Of this best of 3 guys, third series of the night. I've actually got some. I actually got a giveaway to do tonight as well, guys. I just found out I'm gonna have some BlizzCon virtual ticket codes to give away from Blizzard. So we're going to be doing that at some point, which is really cool because you guys get the really awesome worker skins, which is like really sick because they're actually, I think, my favorite skins in the game right now. I don't know what your opinion on skins and stuff is, Cats, but I don't really care for a lot of them. I think that a lot of them are kind of like boring, but I really like the new worker skins.
Oh, I saw them. They look really cool. The Junkers.
Yeah. The probe with like the, you know, the kind of the mouth guard on sort of thing. And the drones have like little saws as claws and stuff, and the SCVs are... The SCVs kind of just look like SCVs, but it's... yeah.
Yeah, they look really cool.
So we'll be giving away a BlizzCon virtual ticket thanks to Blizzard tonight, guys, at some point, probably in a couple of series' time. You'll be able to unlock all of the virtual goodies, as well as watching all the extra BlizzCon content from your virtual ticket. As we set up into this Hellbat attack, 4 minutes gone. Apparently this game is actually going on, even if we're not talking about it. You're going to see these queens. Well,
here we go. Good split. Good spread on the queens. That's what you want to do, is kite backwards. Now there's Marines in the mix, so the trick we were talking about with sending links forward is not going to be as effective.
Just the medevac snipe, I think, always a really important part of these defenses against medevac-based attacks with the Hellbats, because it's you know, if you're poking away at the queens, but every single time that the medevac's just healing it back up, it's very frustrating because you're not actually making that much progress. So getting rid of the medevac's a big deal here. He needs to keep some of these drones alive. Only 4 going down, the Ling's starting to commit forwards, and it looks as though RiSky is more or less going to be good. Nah, he sends too many drones in. Nah, this was... I know what you mean, that looks scary, but he didn't actually lose too much, I don't think, to that volley. If he'd stuck around a bit longer. Yeah, I think he like took a big hit and like he was low on health, but then he pulled back, so it was okay. 6 workers lost. So we also have a Liberate in the main base to 9 mining. Nice combination. Second time we see a Liberate tonight. Combined with the Hellbat attack. So pretty cute here from Semper, but RiSky gets the kill and he's able to clean this all out.
Yeah, it did cost them some mining time. Actually made a huge mistake in sending the drones all the way to the 3rd base. So they're gonna waste like twice the amount of time, of travel time at least, which is probably another 2 or 3 drones worth of money.
If Semper played for us, he could make Sempists. That's the best I've seen in chat so far. It's not brilliant, I'm not gonna lie. Come on, chat, you can do better than this.
I mean, that's a good effort, at least.
It's a good effort. It's original. It takes...
Yeah.
It is original.
Yeah.
I like it. Alright, they're on the way up here from RiSky.
Like, if we get 10 of those, one of them is gonna be good, you know?
Yeah, we just need 9 more until we actually find one we can say without just cringing at ourselves every time.
Yeah.
That'd be really brilliant.
So bailing this coming up, Hydra then, so we're gonna be seeing the Hydra's macro hatch. Everything pretty normal in Camp Semper. He's making the tanks, so that's what he's gonna want against the Hydras, or what most Terran players seem to want against the Hydras. But yeah, I would say that RiSky held off pretty well. Resources lost pretty much tells us the game's fairly even still.
Yeah. It's been all well and good so far as we see these Marines coming up top, and we're going to see these Hellions from Semper as well. Going to go for a little bit of a further attack here. So Semper looking to apply pressure once again. How about some low ground? I guess he'll try and maybe want to pick up. This is like sort of the odd way around of doing it. Using the medevac to lift up mid-fight is a bit dangerous because he loses healing power, but it's going to work out, but it has bought RiSky a lot of time to get Bane's into position, and wow, that's a pretty crushing blow there. I liked it though, just using some Hellions from earlier and combining it to make something special happen, but unfortunately this time it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah, so to your point about it being the weird way to go about it, I think that you mean that usually you would get the Hellions because 4 fit in the medevac and then more of them in the main, right?
Yeah, and just because as well, like the Hellbats on the low ground aren't going to do anything at all, right? Because they're not going to reach in. Like,
so yeah. The thing is, the Hellions wouldn't reach in either, and I actually like this decision by Semper. It's really cool to see like this type of decision and try to think of why the player might have done that. And in this instance, for example, there's 2 medevacs, so the travel time is exactly the same. And B, in the situation that we actually did see unfold, where the Lynx get us around on the medevacs as they're dropping the Marines and whatnot, you would much rather have Hellbats dropping out of those medevacs than Hellions, right? And if you have Hellions and you have to morph them into Hellbats in the main, then they're taking damage for free in that amount of time. So I think that if there was only 1 medevac, he should almost always load in the Hellions or have them morph as Hellions, or in the instance that the Hellions can actually like do significant damage, maybe they could shoot at like one link that was like right next to one of the Marines or something, but I don't think they could do much from the low ground otherwise. So I like the decision.
I think seeing how it developed, it made a lot more sense, right? Initially I was like, well, why would you leave your Hellbats behind? But he did manage to get them up into the high ground. It did work out for him until the Bane's cracked in, and that was obviously a bit of a mistake. RiSky here trying to run by at the same time as this attack comes in towards the south side. And he's actually going to start pushing into this. I mean, Semper's just about off creep, and you're going to see the Marines just slowly lift up in the end of this. It's actually a fairly safe thing you can do if you're off creep, lifting up and starting to move away, because the Hydras are just not fast enough to keep up with the medevacs. Whereas on creep, unless you're boosting with the medevac, the Hydras will catch up. So Semper, just because he was staying off creep there, was able to kind of save himself when it got a little bit dicey towards the end.
Yeah, a couple of really good Baneling connections, but both of these players have been stellar at just in the macro department. Like, they're not really missing a beat. They barely ever are floating any significant amount of money. Right now, Semper's getting up to, the highest that I've seen them at like 500 and 600. So they've been doing crazy good behind this.
RiSky defending the drop as well, really not letting anything come on through, and just gonna see this lone marine gonna come in to push this overlord off on the way over to the right hand side. Nicely done there. Again, just wanting to take his 4th base, Semper, of course. 10 minutes into this first game of the series, and both players in a good position, considering where they want to be right now. I think both of them are very happy. 2 upgrades are finished up either side. RiSky's starting again towards his hive tech. He's on a composition he's comfortable with using for now. He's feeling good enough to set up run bys, etc. all the time, which is always nice, and especially at this timing, hitting this base on the right hand side as it lands and before it becomes a planetary is a really nice time to come on in. And actually, these marines that are running in to try and help this and defend, I don't think are going to be in high enough numbers. And I think that's going to be RiSky cleaning these up, and maybe even more reinforcements behind this. But a big fight at the front at the same time. Hydras and Bane's going to start crashing on in, but these tanks are so exposed that they're dropping very, very quickly.
Yeah, Semper taking the bad end of both engagements there. He could have had a much better tank spread. I feel like if he worked off of a similar setup to what King was doing, then he would find RiSky making a very similar quote-unquote mistake, if you will. I'm not so sure you can call it a mistake, but I don't really like this forward base, seeing as how King abused it, especially.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he feels confident enough to put it there. It might just be one of those things where he thinks... I always find this, sometimes player likes to take that base now and try and mine from it a bit before it becomes harder with higher tank counts later in the game, or higher liberator counts, and then they take another base which is maybe a bit easier to hold against that. But,
yeah, I mean, there's a wide open area too. I just don't like it against tanks. Like, if there weren't tanks in the mix, then I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, the tanks on the high ground is just so powerful in this sort of position as we do see. Oh, RiSky. I mean, you said it. Semper came off on the bad end of both those trades. I mean, he has got his 4th base up now, but RiSky really has been the one in control. And I think the important thing is that RiSky, behind all of this, is setting up into that hive tech and those units from the hive tech. Viper's on the way out. The Ultra's Cavern has finished up. We've seen Adrenal Glands coming on through here, and I think all of this for RiSky is something which will obviously make the the next stages of this game a lot more comfortable for him, and they'll allow him to play a lot more smoothly.
Definitely, he's in a dominant position right now. There's very little that Semper has to or can do. Maybe he has to hold for long enough to have the 4th and the 5th economy maybe even kick in. Now he's adding additional starports, which is a good thing, right? It's for Liberators against Ultras, it's for Vikings against Broodlords. It's just in general what you need against Hive Tech, and that's where RiSky is going. So I do not like any sort of move out right now.
It's like the worst time to move out for Semper, I think. Like, just before you get the Liberator count up, it's just before, it's just as RiSky hits his hive tech. And it opens like counterattacks like this from RiSky in towards these bases, and even if it's just a few, SCVs going down, there's still SCVs you don't really want to be losing at a difficult stage of the game where the Zerg's becoming very powerful, and you take a while to become very powerful as a Terran.
Yeah, what this move out does accomplish is it makes RiSky maybe panic, maybe morph some Banelings or something like that. It wasn't the case here, but it's something that it could do. It also opened up for the drop at the bottom to do a little bit more. I don't mind pokes like that.
I guess it's not so bad that he's only brought like bio and medevacs that can fit into the enough bio to fit into the medevacs, because then in most scenarios, if he gets in trouble, he can just lift him back away, right? And then obviously he's hoping that he's only going to benefit from it.
Yeah, just as long as he's not committing his army, because he needs that. He needs every little.
I think the dangerous thing is if there's like a burrowed infested that just catches those medevacs in that army, and then all of a sudden it's only half of his army on the map. He doesn't have the tank support, and RiSky's able to take a fight. So I think it's
that could be nasty.
I think it's like a bit of risk here, but I think generally it's going to reward Semper more than the risk is there, as we do see him just taking a 5th base too, and we're really getting some nice macro TvZs today.
Yeah, and RiSky has, for the most part, kind of allowed Semper this position. I'm not sure if he was waiting for the Ultras, but now RiSky is maxed, and RiSky has a huge bank. So the longer he waits, the more he's letting a game that he had very much in control. I wouldn't call it slip away, because he's still going to have an edge. It's just not going to be as glaring, right? Because Now, if Semper somehow takes a really good engagement, he's back in it. Whereas before, if Semper took a really good engagement, RiSky wouldn't have given a shit. And it was much more difficult to take a good engagement when you're like 50, 60 supply behind. So I feel like RiSky could have capitalized on his advantage a little bit earlier, but he's still very much in a good position. Like this is one of those situations where maybe, and I like to point this out because it's rare that it is the case, but sometimes when you're ahead, get more ahead, it's not, you know, like there's a cap to it. It's 200, right?
Yeah. I like, realize that RiSky's got this army that's going to be so hard for the town to deal with. There's going to be seeing this bio.
Oh yeah, it's nasty. It's a nasty army for sure.
I think the thing is that Semper's also building up, and I really think Semper's one of the players who can deal with an army like this, because I look often to Semper's TVP as one of these guys who will sometimes only make 2 to 4 medevacs and then go mass liberator, so he's so good at playing like the slow, more patient positional focus games. I think that'll really help him in like this TvZ here, where he has to play the slower, more positional focus game and not just try to win in one large fight, because that's not going to happen in this sort of scenario. So I think Semper's got a good...
Semper being allowed to even fool with the creep and be annoying because RiSky's still not making infestors either. Now there's a bunch of players that don't make infestors, don't get me wrong, and there could be all sorts of reasons for why you don't make infestors, like even mechanically leaning reasons, like maybe he doesn't have an extra hotkey for both infestors and vipers, right? Like that might sound like, oh, what a noob, well, Hydra didn't either, right? Like there's a lot of like players that work with whatever hotkeys they have. So that could be a limitation. It could just be that I don't fucking know. I don't know what else. But infestors, man, they're great. You get one fungal, they can't poke in like that anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Your ultras are really powerful with infestors. They're good at preventing the...
I don't know why you wouldn't
liberators from sieging.
Infestors are
just like
good.
one, at least.
You don't even need many, right? You need like 2 or 3, and you have like so many fungal growths in terms of how many you really need to like take a fight. So it's really... I just don't know. I mean, he has invested into a lot of tech here, though. RiSky, he's gone Vipers and Corruptors kind of early on. He's a bit careful. He's just sending his Hydras over this right-hand side, and he's kind of brought the rest of his army away. He's not going to get punished too much for it. He actually really wants to take this fight, apparently, but there's the Liberator sieging up, so now he'll back away from this. And looks as though, I guess he didn't get
Semper
punished too
very
much.
smartly, always scanning ahead, making sure that he can move forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, now Semper is, you know, he can actually win this game, whereas, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, I didn't think he should stand at much of a chance.
I mean, yeah, it's the patience, and maybe RiSky being a bit too patient himself, right? Not leaping on those opportunities like you mentioned earlier. But it's also scary.
Still RiSky has a massive advantage. Let's not get
Oh yeah, I mean, his bank is insane. He's got a very good army composition. But Semper's getting up what he needs to fight against this sort of army composition. Is RiSky going to abduct a bunch of Liberators here initially at the front, allowing the Ultras to go up in towards that bio, and well, a few more abducts and pretty much every Liberator is taken out of the equation. The Corruptors are going to chase those Liberators down, so... This was quite nice from RiSky. Look at Semper's supply, it's only 160 when he was maxed before. And, you know, all of what he's lost was actually mostly Liberators, which are so difficult to rebuild. They don't rebuild in 2 seconds like Bio. They really take a little while, and it's so gas heavy.
The Vipers with Hydras, and now with this number of Corruptors. I'm actually, that is... He definitely did overmake Corruptors, unless he's gonna morph them into a bunch of the Brutes. Because that's a lot of Corruptors.
Especially when he has so many Vipers to abduct so many Liberators at a time as well, right? Because maybe if he was going up against like 15 like Vipers, 15 Liberators, and that many Corruptors works, because you need to clean them out ASAP. But
no, that's kind of gonna hurt him in the heart.
Is this enough Broodlords, do you think? Like 17? I hope I ever see someone make 17 Broodlords at once. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is nasty. Yeah, this is just unstoppable. Semper's making 4 Liberators and 1 Viking at a time. He is maxed to his own...
This is
so
the
he has to,
right? Like,
he's trying to throw away his armies as fast as possible. He's
This
like, no, I need to throw away tanks.
is the problem with Broodlords. He's just like, Liberators aren't even that good against Broodlords. You actually do need Vikings.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of
He
interesting.
can't make him right now. It's like...
No, he can't. He's maxed out. How dare he? Has so
he's
much
trying
army.
to throw army, and then... I love that he actually stopped himself from loading his drops, and he loaded in some tanks, because he's like, shit, tanks are useless now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you gotta get rid of that shit soon. like
RiSky.
ASAP.
This could do a lot though if
RiSky's-
RiSky's not paying attention, but RiSky
Yeah,
is,
RiSky is giving him a lot of time and a lot of space with his Broodlords. The Liberators are having their way with them.
Now the Hydras have just pulled back or so. There isn't really like anything to protect them. A few Corruptors, but he doesn't have that many Corruptors
there was
left.
there was four parasitic bombs completely available.
Right, okay, I completely forgot about the fact that Hydras could have actually hit parasitic. Just dropping the mains gonna start doing some real damage, man. I mean, this is a good few tanks. I mean, Greatest Fire and Ultra Cavern's gone down already.
And he focused the Vipers. He has to look for the Vipers, Semper does.
I don't think he can quite get them right. Blinding Clouds are really nice here to save the day, but this really pulls RiSky all the way back. I mean, this is, this isn't cheap losses.
And
I mean,
as soon as I love this too. Like if you look at the units of Semper, he just stimmed him. So as soon as he sees the Broodlords on the other side of the map, he stims forward and tries to clear as much creep as he can before the army gets back in position.
and upgraded Queens are insane. They just snipe like 5 medevacs flying overhead for a split second.
Nasty.
But they just
They
lose
are
the Queens,
nasty,
but I
those
mean, at
ones.
the same time, it's still not bad. Losing Queens at this stage of the game, I mean, you've got so many
And
hatcheries.
this army is just
Lava isn't an issue.
nasty. Like it's so many Corruptors, so many Broodlords. You just need, an equal response in terms of Vikings, and Semper just doesn't have it right now. He's making some ghosts. His economy is nuts now, Semper's. So he is actually.
He's got some Vikings
If he
as well,
stops
right?
this, he wins the game. Is what I like. It's gonna be near impossible to stop it. Like, yeah, maybe he doesn't win the game, but he will have a huge edge if he manages to stop this.
But look at this, I mean, immediately we just saw all of those Vikings going down. The Liberators are doing some good splash damage to the Broodlords there, but the Broods still survive, and now this Bio won't stand much of a chance. Those Corruptors killing medevacs as well.
If these 5 Liberators were in that fight, all those Broodlords would be dead probably. I don't like that he sieged those 2. Like, why siege those 2?
Oh, I mean, the Broodlords are super low, so anything extra would have really made a difference on this. You see them starting to go down now, but it's way too late and RiSky. We just see the power of this army starting to overrun. Semper's down on supply, and RiSky still has a bank, and he's making 7 more Ultras. There's maybe a few too many Corruptors up in the sky now, but it just means that any Viking or any Liberator that comes out is just going to die instantly. And he can sort of just sit through Marine Fire as well, continue to work his way through this.
Yeah. I love the army composition that he used to close out the game. It's just so difficult to answer without, an equally strong army. Whereas many other armies, like say the Ultras, right? Like you can actually, you can maybe deal with more Ultras.
There's just a complete waste of a week anyways. But turns out NA people are pretty awesome and pretty nice, so.
Yeah, they were like WardiTV charm.
It turns out I also have like a lot of people who just stay up all night anyways, and they're also degenerates, so. All good, all good.
All goods.
Alright guys, gonna kick it off in the game number 2. Bottom right, Root Gaming Semper is down a map against the man at the top left, our purple Zerg, RiSky. If RiSky wins this, he's in such a, especially if he wins 2-0, he'd be in such a good position to go through this group. It'd be really crazy.
The other players would have to hope for a tie for him not to go, right?
Yeah, so it would have to be like a tiebreaker where someone goes 0-3 and the rest sort of trade series against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, like maybe stun beats...
Maybe stun, yeah.
So yeah, like stun beats... I don't even know, like I think either stun or Semper would have to go 0-3 and then the other one would have to go, like take a match off Keen, but Keen beats the other one, etc, so...
Which is entirely possible. Like I think Semper
is.
could beat Keen. I think
Yeah.
I think it's very possible that everyone beats Stun.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
as good as he is.
Yeah,
he's
it's,
been active for a while.
I think one of the things is that as well though is that if RiSky does come out of this and wins this series, he'd be in a very good map score too, because he took a map off Keen when he lost, and that's something that can come into play as well. Although he did also lose a map to Stun while winning, so it's
true.
round robins are really interesting. I don't know what your thoughts are on different group formats and stuff, but even though round robins have a lot of issues, I really do like them a lot of the time instead of dual limb groups. I'm at this point where, I don't know, I think every tournament uses dual limb groups, so I get kind of bored of it. And then I also think there's so much bracket luck in dual limb groups as well.
I think that's what it comes down to for me, like in most things, because this is essentially the equivalent of StarCraft politics, right? It's like what system should we use of fucking governing the tournament, the tournament scene or whatever. And for me, it's like, as long as there's variety, I don't want to see the same thing in every tournament. So I don't care if it's round robin or the other style, as long as it's not always the same.
Yeah, man. I like the round robins. I run most of my events from round robins now. The other thing as well is that for to run a stream, it's like, or to run it like in a certain event, it's like, to run like 5 best of 3s is just like a bit too short for a single stream sometimes, you know? Whereas with the round robin, it's like 6 best of 3s, so it's like, it seems like a small difference, but it's actually like guaranteed an extra half hour or so, and I think that usually makes the, you know, it just makes it a nice little extra something, you know?
Def.
Thank you, by the way, Von Schleyer, for another cheer.
Von Schleyer!
You're in love with the Von Schleyer name?
I like it, yeah. What does it mean? Do you know what it means?
I don't know, man. I think his name's just Von, and then he has Schleyer after it.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I read it. Maybe there's something more in depth that I'm missing out on, but perhaps not. Five for the cheer 600, mate. Do appreciate. And someone asking in the chat if I'm going to Home Story Cup. Yes, I will be. So this week I'm casting. I'll be streaming most days up until Sunday 29th, and then I fly to BlizzCon on the 30th, and then I'm gonna be at BlizzCon for a week. I come back. I'll be casting the day I return and the day after I return from BlizzCon, and then I go to Home Story Cup on the Wednesday. So that's my next couple of weeks. If you guys are wondering what's going down and where.
Oh, look at this Crypt Tumor. I've never seen this Crypt Tumor. Not that I watch a lot of StarCraft.
Oh, that's
cool. Yeah.
Oh, does that push it out down?
I think it does. So he can actually put his next Creep Tumor to connect it with his potential 5th base.
Oh, that's
if he
sick.
decides to go that way. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, what?
Oh, but he doesn't.
I'm just gonna push it forward. God, this was so cool. You just ruined it. Well, is it? It's still further. I guess is it still further forwards than if he put it somewhere else? Maybe.
No, it's still good. I think. Yeah. It's
I still think it's better than if you came from the ramp or so.
Yeah.
Even if just by a few seconds, but something like Creep is really based on just a few seconds at a time. Like, you know, it's actually one of the really compelling things to make TvZ such an amazing matchup, because if someone is better than you, you'll either have no creep spread if they're the Terran player, or you'll have so much creep spread if they're the Zerg or whatever. And that's obviously such an amazing thing to see, because it really is a constant battle between the very best players to deny creep, to pick up on creep, and to slow it down. It's such an important thing to get rid of as well.
It's a great tug of war, yeah.
Let me see in this attack here. No armory for Hellbats, just a Widowmine drop with the Hellions running by at the same time. RiSky is starting to catch the Hellions though into the main. He's just got these Marines on the third that are causing a bit more issue than he would have been hoping for.
Oh, the Queen! She has energy. Okay. Yeah, that was overall well handled. He basically decided I can't defend on both fronts, so I'm gonna focus on the Hellions. The Marines don't have stim. The mine is already, you know, a mine, so it's like 4 Marines, just evacuate and then deal with them after. That was nice.
He just tried to build the Spore Crawler literally on top of the Widowmine. I don't know if he's just trying to mark it or if he actually wanted to build the Spore. Maybe he's going to set it off with this drone and then build the Spore at the time it gets set off, so he can set it off.
But he's giving himself minimum time to do it. Yeah. See, that's because it's right next to the mine. So if he puts it like further away, then he sees the mine locking on, and you know he can build a Spore far more
I think he was probably just intending to build the Spore there, but he just didn't realize it didn't start to build.
Oh,
because he literally tried to build it right on top of the Widowmine initially. So just a little bit unlucky for RiSky. This Widowmine get a bit more value than it maybe should be. But,
no, please don't. Okay.
Still fairly okay for him, right? I mean, we're talking about a 10 worker lead, which is fairly normal in the Zerg versus Terran. You know, again, this did some initial damage, but RiSky was starting to drone pretty quickly after it, so all said and done, it's been a bit of a ping-pong in the income advantage, but I'll say both players are kind of happy with where they are. RiSky not taking too much, Semper doing a little bit of damage.
A bit of a ping-pong, I like that.
You like it? These guys ping... It is, kind of how games go. I like to call ZVZs ping pong as well, ping pong games as well, when, you know, some Zergs makes like lings and then they attack and then they make drones while the other guy makes lings and then they attack, and ping pongs back and forth across the map.
I like it. So we're gonna have a double medevac drop, 7 minutes in. Pretty late, this shouldn't do much.
Yeah, I guess just kind of there to kind of clean up creep, etc. as the first couple medevacs are out. Just wants to start.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's something that you should do, because if there's no mutas, or you don't anticipate there's gonna be mutas coming out anytime soon, then this should always And as I say that, it almost falls, but it should always be free harassment, right? Like it's
That
you
was a
don't
very
stand to lose
risky
anything.
position for him to drop it into originally, though. Like, I don't think you should ever drop actually onto the creep. You need to drop sort of away from the creep and then push forwards when you know you're safe, because losing the medevacs is something you really don't want to have happen. And,
Yeah. At the same
he
time,
gets
to
away.
lose the medevacs, he would have had to have. He would have had. I don't know how to say it. But, all the queens in position, which he did.
Queens
but
are insane, man.
They're
When the queens are just like an entire screen away, and sometimes they still shoot down the medevac, I just don't understand it. It's mental.
They are. Yeah, they are mental.
That range
I
is
love
pretty
them.
cool. But yeah, Lib's going to siege up on the natural. RiSky immediately starts to build a spore crawler, which is nice. Obviously now it's building in position, so he doesn't have to build it outside, then move it into location, which would have just been a few more seconds to deny this for.
Yeah, overkill though, right? Like one liberator would have done the exact same thing as two liberators here.
Yeah, I guess maybe it stops the queens pushing forwards as easily, but I think you're right. I think it doesn't really make much of a difference. The queens will attack through for transfusers anyways. Interesting to make these liberators so early in the game, actually. Obviously they're here to kind of harass and stuff, but maybe it would have been better to build up a few more medevacs. I mean, right now he's got 2 medevacs on the map. Obviously he lost one of them, but that's a lot of marines for only 2, and even if it was 3 medevacs, it's a lot of marines. It's a lot of army. He could have done with... I feel like there's no reason for him to have built libs instead of the medevacs here, so...
Or he could have at least sent them to 2 different bases, maybe.
Yeah,
but
and then maybe it makes more
actually,
sense, but...
Yeah, I hadn't actually considered that they're considerably better against the queens that you pointed out, so maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Oh, good Baneling connection.
Yeah, nice way to start that off towards the other right side of this army. Just going to be seeing the Banes morphing in again towards the front as Hydra's getting set to go. Bigling run by to the right side, but no Banes helping bust down this wall initially, and RiSky. It's going to get pushed away for now, but I'd be very surprised if he didn't morph Banes.
Very good at those, at the Ling run bys. I think it's just a product of how fast this guy is RiSky, because he's always on top of those Ling run bys. He's so good at that.
I mean, we haven't seen a game today where he hasn't been trying to go for Ling run bys, right? And multiple times through the game as well. It's not just like, oh, he tries it once and that's it. It's all the time. I mean, it basically won him a game against Stun. We're going to be seeing RiSky actually pushing forwards. He's going to get grabbed. Wow, that's a lot of damage done. And a lot of momentum gain, maybe enough for him to keep pushing forwards here. It's a tough position because he hasn't knocked down the rocks to the north of the 4th base, so he has to kind of stop and just not really kind of push up that ramp, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice little pushback though, gives him the map control back and the safety to say, okay, I can invest into Hive now, you're not immediately pressuring me. Give him a time to get some more Banes up, etc.
Yeah, I think that the Ling run bys can be or end up being detrimental, right? If you just like keep doing them when there are other more glaring advantages that you could be pushing or leaning on. But overall, yeah, like I think that he's been fantastic at it. I can't blame him for just doing it all the time and making it a habit. Like that's actually probably how he got so good at it. Just doing it non-stop.
Yeah, I think if you just start getting, if it's a habitual thing to do, then all of a sudden you're going to find more success than you find failures, because it is something that's very hard to stop a lot of the time, right? Once they start going down. This is nice from Semper though, by the way. He got a pretty good trade as a few units kind of ran past his army. And he's also got a drop in the main base with the Liberator too, so it's causing some chaos and distracting RiSky while getting himself into position towards the 4th. This guy's a lot of money he's not spent just yet, and I'm not really too sure why, just a lack of lava, I guess. He's got 1.2, 1.3k in the bank. And again, he could, if he could spend all that, he'd be maxed out, and this would look okay, but without spending it.
And the issue is Larva, just checking through the hatcheries and unit stab or whatever, he is slow on Larva, so one thing that he could be doing is building Hydras instead of Lings, but instead he's gonna opt to go for Banelings, which are also very expensive units, so that's fine too, and they don't require Larva.
This is one heck of a fight coming in from RiSky. The Banes were pretty deadly initially. He's going to push forwards to get rid of the tanks. What was, I think, the real deciding factor here from RiSky is he saw those tanks were so clumped up that he didn't even really mind rolling some Banes in, because they were hitting on like 3 or 4 tanks at one time. And to get rid of the tank count is huge, because it really allows him to be more aggressive with the Hydras continuing on from this point. And you can see already he's setting up towards the 4th base because of it, so I really like that. Not a fight you might take 90% like a lot of the time if the tanks were a bit more spread out, but he just sees the opportunity, and I think because of that, well, runs in to take advantage. Units moving around, he's going to see Bio pushing up, a couple of tanks as well. So RiSky can't be too aggressive just yet, but he's going to maybe try and engage before the tanks are all fully sieged. Again, this Bio is clumping up heavily as the Banelings start to connect on it. And again, the tanks are just going to be left on their own in the front. RiSky pushes this back, and all of this while he's setting up into the Ultra Cav, and Chitinous plating just starts at the end of that fight. And now he's just going to have a better and better army to fight, while Semper is still sort of building the same composition as he's been fighting the whole game.
Yeah, that's the big problem for Semper, and why he has been so adamant to continue pushing and trying to make something work, is that he doesn't really have a transition. Whereas RiSky's army is gonna get continuously better. There's already the Vipers out, and now there's Ultralisks on the way. So the only thing that Semper has going for him right now is gonna be a 3-3 timing that's gonna be very short-lived, and after that, it's just all downhill for him. He needs to try to transition into something that can actually win him a game against this, but RiSky's going into it with a good advantage right now.
It's so difficult because these Hydras are, you know, they just make up an army that's just so good at holding off the Terran player again and again and again. And that's exactly what we've been seeing so far, as we do see. Drop over to the top side though, gonna get the Ultra Cavern.
That is huge, gigantic, yeah. So that's gonna prevent RiSky from attacking until he gets another Ultra Cavern and the Carapace upgrade. It's just too good of an upgrade. It's just you know, your Ultras. It's the difference between your Ultras dying or not dying to Marines.
Yeah, it's so important. It's like you can actually notice when you don't have this upgrade and when you do.
Oh,
like,
definitely, yeah.
It's crazy. Like Zergs never forget this upgrade because they just realize that Ultras are actually not being Ultras; they're actually just dying instead. It's so powerful.
They're dying to bio as opposed to not taking any damage.
Yeah, it's pretty mental. It's, again, mental. There's a great phrase for it. Ultra Cavern, I don't feel the new one is built in a very safe location to the side of this natural, very droppable, but I guess RiSky not too afraid of that, as you're going to be seeing. He just needs to make sure he actually does start Chitinous. One thing that seems to forget here is that, you know, he rebuilds the Ultra Cavern, make sure you do rebuild the Chitinous, because if you don't, that will be very painful. And every second that ticks by really lowers the amount of, well, it really just extends the amount of time that RiSky has to play at a disadvantage compared to where he could be in the game.
Definitely.
I think you'll notice it as soon as the fight. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say if you didn't notice it now, he'd notice it as soon as he went in for a fight. He is actually gonna push up this ramp.
This is a good place for Semper, but I mean, RiSky's army is still much better. But if Semper's gonna hope for any sort of a fight, up this ramp was a good place to take it.
Ducks coming in to get these Liberators out of siege mode, and you're all gonna see the Vipers maybe going a bit too far forwards. Maybe could have been pulled back by RiSky. And as you said, I think Semper was in a good position up there, but RiSky just forced the issue. I think the Blinding Clouds, though, were kind of a big deal as well. Just because Semper was so choked up, because it was all up a ramp, and that ramp led to kind of still just a narrow choke point.
Yeah, it seemed like the armies, the Marines sat under the Blinding Clouds for a little bit too long as well.
Yeah,
I feel like he could have
stemmed the tanks were there too. It was. I still think it was bad for Semper. In fact, his supply is right back up there as soon as he spends his money. And, you know, he kills off a few Ultras. Again, the thing is, this is, you know, if that's how RiSky can take a fight, attacking into a good position for Semper, and without Chitinous playing.
Without the Kite, yeah.
What's it going to look like in, like, 20 seconds from now when the Chitinous finishes?
It's going to be nasty. Yeah.
Really
Well, to Semper's credit, he will have a slightly better composition in that he will have a lot of Marauders and maybe a few more Liberators by the time the next engagement happens. Whereas before, his army was mostly Marines. But yeah, it's looking pretty grim, I think. Oh, gets a Viper, maybe the second one.
Ooh, nice transfuse to keep it alive in a second time as well. Oh, he still loses it though. RiSky just needs to be a bit more careful. He actually let a couple of Vipers kind of fly forwards and die in the previous fight as well.
And that puts a complete stop to RiSky because he has no way to deal with the Liberators now. He doesn't have Corruptors this game. He relies on the Abducts into the Hydra. Still, he's going to push forward.
The Liberator is actually very exposed here, which means the Hydras can get underneath them very quickly and take them down very quick. And also, because the Ultras came from the left side, the Libs weren't initially covering them. So the Ultras got on top very quickly. This is messy for Semper because, again, as you said, the Libs took so long to siege there. And now these Ultras, well, maybe time to start pulling back, but RiSky just got rid of so much of the tech of these of the Terran player there. So many Liberators going down, and now he builds Corruptors. He's got 10 Corruptors.
But I really feel like he keeps hitting his anti-timings. Like, if you look at the supply, like, Semper, I feel like Semper shouldn't have a right to be in this game, right? Like, we were talking about how far behind he was, and right now it's not that bad. Like, once he spends all his money, he'll be maxed, and the bank by RiSky is gone compared to what it was before, where it was much more significant. And Semper just picked off a base. And this is all due to, I feel like, RiSky taking anti-timings, right? Like, attacking before the Chitinous planing was done up a ramp, and then a second time kind of If the Liberators were sieged for Semper, for example, I feel like he wins that engagement or comes off of it a little bit better off, and a little bit better off is perfect. Right now the supplies are even. If there's another one of those trades, Semper pulls ahead, I think.
Well, let's see how this fight goes. As right now, the tanks are going to be one of the main features keeping Semper in this. The Corruptors get rid of a lot of the libs, but Semper is going to push this back. RiSky under attack to the top right side as well, trying to establish a new base. He's also re-expanding to his original 4th as he got that taken down to a drop before. Both of these players really throwing it at each other. 18 minutes in, we are maxed out, and neither of them really having an advantageous bank. Such a different scenario to the late game we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, and look at Semper. Semper's like, okay, you keep engaging me on this ramp, I'll keep taking this ramp because it's, you know, you keep engaging me on this ramp.
Oh yeah, I mean, he says like, I think this ramp is the dream for Semper, right? It pushes into the face of RiSky and it's like a choke point.
RiSky's willing to take a fight in it every time.
I wonder if RiSky just, I mean, I can kind of understand the first couple of times he did with the, like, you know, first time he had the Vipers in the clouds.
Semper not
the second time he had the flank as, ooh, well, this is going to be a bit scarier now as we're going to see the Ultras leading the charge. Tanks going down very quickly, and the Corruptors are doing their job against the...
That's the Ultras, though, attacking into that,
yeah.
That Siege Tank Liberator line.
Man, this is... I mean, the thing is, RiSky's still pushing into these brutal positions for him, but he's still kind of coming out of it okay-ish. I guess now his Ultra count taking some hits, man. Imagine he had an Infestor or two, which completely changed everything, as we're going to see the base to the left side goes down again. Semper's drops, one of the main things that are keeping him in this game as well.
Yeah, and the reason RiSky's here and committing to this is that one base there, right? So maybe he could have expanded downwards. Yeah.
Oh yeah, take the bottom left, but I mean he's just having such an issue with drops over on that side. It's really hurting him every time.
There's no now RiSky is gonna break through. There's no Liberators left.
Are the tanks not just enough though in this sort of choke point? I think they are. I think if RiSky did what he did before and he gets some units like down the side and up the left to fight this, it would be great.
Yeah, look at the fungal there, one fungal.
But the fact that he's not setting up any flanks at all, he could even loop around the top side and come in from the right as well. So instead of attacking up one tiny choke point ramp, he comes in from 3 directions. I think instantly, Semper just gets destroyed. And he's starting to set it up every time, but then he just backs away and pulls back in because for some reason his top army is already committing forwards.
He takes taxes every time, right? Like you always take taxes from the ranged units, and tanks have the highest range.
Yeah.
So on the retreat, you're gonna take pot shots. Like you don't want to retreat. Once you engage tanks, you know you can beat tanks, or you want to know that like you're trying to break the tank line. Because if you don't on the retreat, they're always gonna shoot at you, and you're gonna take free damage. Like taxes is what I'm calling it.
You see this bio sims forwards, and maybe finally he's gonna get this base. There's a lot of tanks. You're going to see Ultras and Hydras going around the left side now as well. Here we go. He's finally going to hit the flank from 2 directions. I feel like he's been trying to set this up for so long, because every time he tries to go for it, it falls apart for some reason. As he pushes in, I mean, yeah, I think it might just be too late, because he's going to get pushed back again, and Semper has way too much right now.
Yeah, and this time he brought the Queens as well. This was just a desperate stand. And Semper's going to pull it back with a much worse army the entire time than RiSky had. Just a really good position that RiSky was willing to engage into. And the first time it happened, we were like, like that's fine, whatever. And the second time, it's like, well, if this keeps happening. And the third time, it's like, well, the fourth time.
Yeah, the 4th time, and then he tried to do it the 5th time, but backed away. And then the 7th time, we were like, oh god. But yeah, I mean, RiSky really just in a tough spot, and I think what's really keeping on happening as well is this one drop keeps coming back in on the left-hand side, and this one drop keeps denying so much eco over here and forcing RiSky to pay attention, and then maybe isn't able to get the attack going that he wanted to. Liberator's cleaned up so many drones top right as well.
And look at where Semper parks as well, because that's like the best place to park your drop too, right? It's like denying the one base that would be a problem, securing him that position that he's probably really happy about and really happy to set up a shop in, to deny the upper half of the map.
Corruptors and Ultras going to try and push forwards again. It's weird because Semper is like so far ahead, but he doesn't seem to have that many tanks or anything anymore. It's just kind of maybe in bio. He's still dropping around, and RiSky is losing more drones to the side as he tries to push on forwards. And I think there is just too much bio here. Eventually, these Ultras are about to drop because there's only 2 of them. Well, there's 3 of them, but there's 2 of them on very low health. And as those go down, the last one is not really a threat at all. And RiSky, I think, in a moment will realize he just doesn't have enough to stay in this. And out of 3 matches
there was
tonight...
a time where, there was a time where he had so much, right? And
Yeah,
right now it's
definitely.
like, whoa, he has 2 ultras and they're not dying. But before he had so much and they were all dying. Well, that's because he attacked without the chitinous plating upgrade first, upper ramp into a choke of Liberator tank, and then he did it multiple other times. So this was kind of a throw, I think, by RiSky, which is a shame because he played brilliantly up until that point. And great job by Semper, obviously, just identifying and abusing the fact that his opponent was willing to commit in that location.
Just as we go in, though, a couple of shout-outs once again. Thank you, first of all, to Jedi Master Geo for the 2-month resub. I was going to say the wrong thing there. Thank you so much for the 2 months. Thank you for rejoining the family and coming on back. Thank you to Jim Stock and Von Schleyer, both for the cheer 25.
Von Schleyer!
Every time. You just love it. And to be fair, is the sort of name you can, like, really...
How do you know that it's Von? It's Von Kang.
No, because he's a big supporter of the stream. I asked him, like, years ago. I asked him, like, a long time ago how to say it. And it's Von Schleyer.
But you didn't inquire further as to what it means.
But I don't know, I guess not. I just sort of assumed his name was Von and he has Schleyer after it. I don't know, man. He can tell us if there's a meaning behind it. I'd be happy to know.
It sounds nasty. It sounds nasty.
It sounds nasty? Yeah. Von Schleyer. It sounds like it could be like the bad guy in like a fantasy series or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Like some sort of slayer, you know?
Yeah. Something like that. Alright. So, game 3. Mech Depot. What are we going to see? What do you think?
I have no idea. Well, it looks like it's going to be a Reaper opener, like on every other map for the last year.
Oh, what a shock.
Every Terran ever, yeah.
Why
I mean,
love
Reapers
this,
are pretty good.
Sometimes we see CC first on this one.
Okay.
Sometimes we see CC first on Mech Depot, but not too often, especially in TvZ. It's like you don't really gain too much anyways. Maybe like, you know, a slight timing advantage and then you can go double gas, but I think the Reaper's just so important. So important to
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty versatile unit.
Yeah.
It's good at defense, you know, it prevents you from losing to any sort of like circling shenanigans, so it secures the early game for you, it gives you scouting information.
Especially with like people who like to go like, you know, kind of like a pull first sometimes, and sometimes we've been seeing these road rushes lately as well in ZVT. It does make sense to get the Reaper. Better safe than losing the game to something that could have been, you know, seen and all you're gaining anyways, like one SCV advantage or something. It's just not
Yeah, and it's not like a purely scouting unit either, right? It has utility, like here it's the knife for so long. In other instances, it might pick you off a drone or two, or force out spores or something, or deny the creep from being spread. So it's a pretty good unit. Can't fault anyone for getting it every game.
No, I think it's just
or
such...
like 90
I mean, the thing is as well, it's like it gives you so much versatility on the follow-up as well, right? Where a CC first opener, you're more or less always going to go double gas afterwards, and then you're very limited to going Rax Factory Starport. Whereas with the Reaper opening, you can still go 2-1-1, you can still go 1 gas free CC, for example. And that's, you know, it just makes the Zerg sort of guess a little bit more, I suppose, rather than them just saying, well, you know, you've gone CC first, I know you're going to afford a factory, and I know from there you'll afford the Starport, etc. I guess it just keeps things interesting. Nah, I think the Reaper just can do so much, man. It's just such a good unit.
Definitely. Now, RiSky has been getting this link speed really early on every time, and that probably should mean for Semper, like, the Hellions are gonna have a really low chance of working every time. And I love what he's doing now. He's gonna go for a drop and hope to find damage elsewhere, because those Hellions are never gonna be good for run-bys against a very early quick link speed. And this is a glaring problem that RiSky has had every game. If you look at his natural base right now, like, he's oversaturated, and he's been oversaturated every single game at the natural base until he transfers to the third. So one thing that he could do is, you know, oversaturate his main a little bit more, so that you actually don't lose mining on, like, he just transferred to the natural, so it's now 45 workers there.
Wow.
That's great.
Nice Coco to lock those Hellions in, by the way, in the main base. Yep. Very cool. Everyone to try and buy some time for the Queens to get up there. Cryptumor is missing to connect the natural on the main, so a little bit of an annoyance. 4 workers lost.
And look,
time.
he still transfers only 16, so he leaves Very inefficient amount mining until
And
he
he should be
transfers.
moving the rest over to the third base already, right?
Now he is, yeah. Now he is.
Just taking
But
a while.
that's a bunch of mining time lost, right? Because workers won't pretty much mine anything past the threshold at 24, I think it is. So 16 mines optimally, but 24 still mine, like just to a lesser extent. Whereas the 27th to 29th drone were actually not mining anything, so you might as well just have them mine something at the main.
It's
if you're
actually
not
really,
willing to transfer.
if you guys haven't seen the graph for optimal saturation, it's actually really cool, the drop off, because actually for the like 17th and 18th worker, it's still not the same as going to like 15 or 16, but it's still like a bit of a boost. But then the 19th,
I think
the
the
19th
17th and
worker
18th are like 90 something percent. Like,
yeah, and
that's
then
what
the
I read.
19th is like 15%. It does like nothing. It's like it's so
That's
crazy.
much
Obviously, still
less,
does
yeah.
something, but it's like very very minimal. So so yeah.
Well,
Yes,
you have 5 drones at 15%. It's like pilot.
Yeah.
Is it really 15%? That's crazy.
No,
though.
I don't know exactly, but it's like compared to like the 17th and 18th, it's like nothing. It really isn't.
Yeah, well, the 17th and 18th I think are like 90 something percent, like 95 plus. That's
Yeah,
what I read.
Because it's the longer mineral patches that'll still be in mind. That'll take the extra drones, so it's kind of useful. But the yeah, as you get past that, the closer mineral lines have to be oversaturated, and then it really isn't good.
Yeah.
Upgrades from both sides, armory as well. Really just a standard setup here in game 3 so far. Nothing.
Yeah, we have another tank push. That seems to be the flavor of the day.
Yeah, I
guess
think a lot of people have
Hydras being so prevalent.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been going for these tank pushes lately. Just one tank or 2 tanks early can be so powerful. I don't like our mech depot because I don't think there's very many positions you can take advantage of. Like, there's nowhere to kind of like keep this tank safe or something. On a map like Interloper, there's a lot of positions you can really abuse with tank pushes early on. Wow, maybe it's just the Zerglings. I don't feel like this is going to turn out well, and all the Zerglings do die, which sort of confirms my suspicions. The Queens are now going to fight, and they'll have a much better time than the Zerglings did, I imagine. This is a little bit of a messy
At the
one,
same
like.
time, though, imagine those Hellions could be morphed into Hellbats. If those
yeah.
Hellions get morphed into Hellbats, he stands no chance of stopping that.
That is
until he
true.
gets out enough damage.
And actually, he doesn't
So
come out
I
of this in a terrible spot.
Yeah, I think he jumped into a decent opportunity, a good opportunity, especially not knowing that there's... Is there an armory up?
There
there
must
is
be
an
because there's
armory
2-2 just started, yeah.
Yeah, so actually that was good, because if those morph into Hellbats, he gets crushed.
Yeah. It's going to be seeing these Marines slowly getting picked away at a little bit further every time, and RiSky will hold on. RiSky actually had a lot of money in the bank as well, and if he'd spent a little bit more of that, he would have maybe had a bit of an easier time pushing that back. So, at the end of the day...
He's been doing really well. This is maybe the game that we've seen him slip the most. And I'm not so sure that we can call it a hardcore slip here, because he's actually got a Spire on the way, so he's okay to save up some money and gas, especially for getting a burst of muta that can actually be useful. And we've seen that he doesn't like to make too many muta, but he's gonna make 10 or so.
Yeah, gonna be what I'd say is like a very standard set of mutas to play out in mid game, maybe like 9, 10, and then you sort of focus up on maybe going into a lot of Banes and maybe taking past that. 11 meters are good enough to kind of pick off a medevac or 2, shut down some drops, harass across the map effectively, force turrets, etc. But it's not kind of like the number where it's like, oh god, you're not ever going to get off lair tech because you're throwing all of your money into Mutalisks. So there's a transition available there, as we do just see Infestation bit thrown down, and that'll be where the rest of the gas starts to go now. Viking actually comes into the main and lands into some meters. Gets hooked off pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard game.
Really just everything going the way we'd expect it to. Semper started to push a bit more aggressively. He's in a good position to take advantage of 2-2 as it finishes. RiSky has the tools required to get rid of this though, and especially playing the mutas against what was just blank tanks throughout the game, right? It should be working pretty good for him. He's actually going to attack it right now. Well, he's just going to go for this. The muta's taking some heavy shots, I have to say. And
oh, those mailing connections were good. But I love what Semper did there. Semper's very smart with his army positioning, what he does with the units. So again, like to touch on what we were talking about earlier, where some people are like, oh, what do you do against this or that? what matters is not always or exclusively what units you make, but rather what you do with those units. And what Semper did here was beautiful because he backed and he let the tanks take the brunt of the damage, because the tanks, you know, once the Zerglings are in range, are just going to be absorbing damage, and the real damage dealers are the Marines. So I really like that he left his tanks in the front. Whereas against other unit compositions, like for example Roaches or Hydras, you would want to protect your tanks, who are gonna do more consistent damage than the Marines. So, like, what unit you use as the shield in your army depends on, you know, what needs shielding. And here he used the tanks to shield the Marines, and that made him crush that engagement.
I think in the follow-up fight we just saw as well, basically RiSky just didn't target the extra tank with his mutas, and because of that, he lost a few more mutas flying over Marines as well, and the muta can't dip so low there.
Yeah, a bit too tired. Good game, well played. I really don't like it when people say that. It's like, why take